Good evening, and thank you for joining us for our latest parent information evening. Want to again thank everyone for taking the time to be with us. We're going to begin with the presentation that we gave at the Board of Education meeting on Tuesday night. We obviously have a Q&A box open as well. I'm going to ask you to hold off on some of the questions for just a few minutes. Hopefully we're going to answer a number of them in the presentation, and that way we'll be able to spend as much time answering questions during our Q&A period that we haven't already answered. And so again, if you could just hold off for a few minutes on putting questions in there, and then hopefully we'll answer some of them as we go, and then we'll have the maximum amount of time after our presentation to answer the questions that we haven't addressed within this. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. If we go to the next slide, please. Again, I just want to thank the Board of Education. I go back to this, and I think this is important. I want to thank the board for launching a very thorough process at the beginning of the planning process for the fall. You go to the next slide. Over 12,000 touch points in this process, and I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to weigh in as we worked through these very difficult issues. Next slide. As we know, one of the things that is just really a centerpiece of the strategic plan that the Board of Education approved in August of last summer is the focus on the well-being of our students and staff. And so as we begin this evening, we want to start at that very foundational point. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Jacqueline Engel to talk a bit about our student well-being supports. Jacqueline?
Good evening. Yes, we have had a large team this summer who's been working to ensure that many of these various supports that you see on your screen right now are in place for all students this fall. We know we're starting remotely, but these will be supports that will be in place for all students. We know there's a lot of questions and uncertainty around everything, but we want to make sure, as Paul just said, that our well-being of our students is top priority. And so we will continue to support our students through a variety of different strategies and a variety of resources, as you see here this fall.
Thanks a lot, Jacqueline. And keeping that focus at the beginning on the safety and well-being of our students, I'd like Dr. Kathy Jenny, one of our associate superintendents, and Chris Potts, our COO, to talk about the different health and safety precautions that we'll be putting in place. Kathy, Chris?
Thanks, Paul. And good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. We have had information out about the importance of face coverings, and in terms of a couple of updates, we are planning for our kindergarten through second graders, and at Whitcliffe, our kindergarten through third graders will not only be required to wear masks when they're traveling to and from the building and in the hallways, but to give them more breaks during the day. We will have these desk shields that are pictured here as a way to allow for safe interaction and breaks from their mask. Otherwise, all students in grades 3 through 12 will be expected to wear masks throughout the school day, as will our staff. Please keep in mind, as you're thinking about masks, we are asking that when we do get to hybrid, that you provide masks for your students. And the masks do need to cover the nose, mouth, and chin in order to be considered safe. We will also have available starting tomorrow the information on the, the appeals form. So for anyone that needs to consider having an exemption to the face covering policy, the 6 reasons for the exemptions are here. These are ones that are put out by our public health officials, and there is a form that will be on our website starting tomorrow. And I know that the mask really doesn't come into play until we get to hybrid model, but we would just encourage anyone who may need this exemption and want to be considered for it throughout the school year to go ahead and submit that form so we can process that and be ready at the point that we're able to go to hybrid.
Kathy, I would just add on that the gaiters that you see a lot of children wearing these days are also permitted, and the health department did issue some guidance on face shields, and those are no longer recommended on their own without a face mask. And so just to keep that in mind for all family members.
And Chris, why don't you just describe really quickly in case there's someone out there that doesn't know what a gaiter is, so we're just all on the same page with what you're talking about there.
So a gaiter is kind of like a scarf that goes around the neck and then can be pulled up over your nose, mouth, and chin. So it doesn't wrap around your ears with loops. It basically is around your neck and is pulled up.
Thank you.
The other thing we just want to encourage families to think about is to practice with masks. Our kids need to have time getting used to being in them for extended periods of time, not just when you're out running errands and being out in the community. So anything you can do to make sure that our kids are getting ready for that. So when we are able to return to hybrid, students have kind of an accustomed approach to being able to be in masks for an extended period of time. This slide really covers the symptoms of COVID. There are 2 points we want to make in this section. There is a change on this slide from when we originally posted it. The fever benchmark now is exactly 100 degrees. Originally, it had stated 100.4. And the other point I want to emphasize is at the bottom where we have underlined any. Health officials are telling us that if any student is experiencing or any staff member is experiencing any of these signs of COVID, these symptoms, you are recommended to stay at home and not report to school. We also will be putting into place a monitoring system. So it'll just be an app on your child's iPad where you or your child can verify that you've checked all of your symptoms before entering school or entering an extracurricular activity or whatever the event is as we begin to open up in the future.
Okay, so I just want to make another point about the last slide, specifically because we're getting a number of questions about it. So I want to walk through this. And the question really revolves around what happens if someone in a classroom tests positive for COVID. And it really comes from a place of people wondering, well, if one person in the classroom gets it, do we quarantine the whole class? Do we quarantine the whole school? What is the protocol? So I wanted to walk through the protocols that health officials have given us. First of all, if one person tests positive, then we will do contact tracing along with Franklin County Public Health. And the standard is this: if anyone has been closer than 6 feet in proximity to the person who tests positive for more than 15 minutes with or without a mask, then that person would need to quarantine for 14 days. So as you know, our protocols in the hybrid model are to maintain physical distancing of 6 feet. So doing that properly means there should never be an opportunity that within the school setting, people have been closer than 6 feet to one another, which hopefully eliminates the need to be quarantining other folks. But again, we will go through the process of making sure, always erring on the side of safety, to see if anyone has been closer than 6 feet to any person who tests positive, again, for longer than 15 minutes. So just wanted to be clear on that, and we'll move to the next slide. And this is something I talk about often, and I will continue to talk about often. Everything we're sharing today is based upon what we know today. And we all are going to need to be flexible. I know this is a time of great uncertainty, which causes anxiety in people of all ages. But the reality is that the virus is evolving, and our understanding of the virus is evolving. And so as we learn more, it gives us the opportunity to know more, and then to react differently as we move forward. And so where we are today is very different than where we were a week ago. And so again, we will continue to adjust and adapt and change as we learn more about the virus. Next slide. So I wanted to review the updated public health guidance. This is as of July 28th. As you know, the Board of Education had a meeting on Tuesday night. I sent an email to all of our families an hour and a half prior to the board meeting based upon updated health guidance we received on Tuesday. And so we will no longer be following solely the color-coded system from the state of Ohio as we make decisions about what school-based option to be in. So what is going to happen is schools and local health officials are going to meet weekly to review all of the available data, and decisions about when to move into the hybrid will be made based upon all of the data available to us. They will be using a variety of data points when making recommendations to us for transitioning between the school-based options. Also want to be very, very clear on this point. The health guidance also was updated to state that at no point during the pandemic will it be recommended to have physical distancing of anything less than 6 feet. So this has enormous ramifications for our school-based options. and means that, again, based upon current guidance, we will not be able to offer a totally in-school option for every child every day until the pandemic is behind us, because we do not have the capacity to do that while maintaining 6 feet of physical distancing at all times. Next slide. And so we will be discussing tonight the two pathways we have for the upcoming school year. Obviously, the UA Online Academy, and then school-based options, which in the previous iteration of this plan, we had 3 different school-based options. Now we have 2. We have the hybrid and enhanced distance learning. Next slide. And so again, as I mentioned, public health officials no longer recommend aligning only to the color-coded system. It's certainly one of the data points, which it actually includes 7 data points that'll be used in the decision-making process, but will not be the sole point of decision-making. Next slide. And so the updated recommendation for the Board of Education is that we begin the 2020-2021 school year in enhanced distance learning through at least September 18, 2020. Please note, this does not mean that we're automatically moving to a hybrid model on Monday, September 21st. We will move to the hybrid model as soon as it is deemed safe. But again, we wanted to give our families and staff a level of certainty, and so we will spend the first 4 full weeks of school in enhanced distance learning, and the earliest we would move to our hybrid model, again, would be Monday, September 21st. We will keep our families and staff updated as we learn more about the data, and obviously all of our hope is that we get kids back in school as soon as possible. Next slide. And so just some of the reminders here. Again, everything is changing, and we're going to continue to make recommendations to our board based upon guidance from public health authorities. Also, it is important to note that based upon what is going on with any of our school buildings, if the absentee rate gets to a certain point within a building, we may have to close a building at one certain time. And we may also have to close a specific classroom if there is spread within that classroom. And so again, we will be communicating fully if any of those things need to happen. Also, if the absenteeism rate of our staff rises to a certain point that we don't have enough staff to keep a building opened, we could be forced to close a specific building or the entire district. Again, we will keep everyone posted on a constant basis of what is happening throughout the pandemic, but we want to be clear on those items. Next slide. And so again, we have 2 pathways for next school year. And so I'd like to introduce Dr. Andy Hatton, who is one of our associate superintendents, and he is going to walk us through both of these pathways. Andy, it's all yours.
Sure, thanks. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. So again, as Dr. Imhoff explained, you've seen this graphic before, but there is one slight change based on the information we know now from public health officials, that we still have our UA Online Academy, which I'll be talking about briefly. And then we have our school-based option, which is the hybrid option and the enhanced distance learning. On the next slide, I just want to touch base on the fact that obviously we are not able to completely replicate the amazing things our teachers do in classroom and traditional in-person school, but we are working to ensure equitable access to quality learning experiences this year. And I can also assure you that we're working very hard to plan professional learning opportunities for our teachers for enhanced distance learning, for the hybrid model. And of course, when we know who our academy teachers are, we will be preparing them as well, not just at the beginning of the year, but throughout the first semester and throughout the year. As Dr. Imhoff said, this is what we want. We want all students in the building and all of our teachers back in school. That based on the constraints we have right now, this part of the plan is now on hold, and that's why this piece has come off of the previous graphic we just looked at. So as you know as well, when we are able to, we will shift to a hybrid model. And as Dr. Imhoff said, the first checkpoint we will have in the calendar year is September 18th to consider the opportunity to be able to shift to a hybrid model where we will still have the safety protocols in place with masking and physical distancing. On this slide, I want to remind you that when we go to a hybrid model, we will go to the 3-2-2-3 model. You can see on your screen that we are going to group students in group 1 or 2, which is A through K, L through Z. We are going to, as we schedule this now, even though we are going to start in enhanced distance learning, we will be scheduling students. And as a reminder, we have to reschedule all students in the district beginning August 6th. And we've got to make sure that things stay as balanced as they possibly can in these times, so that we will schedule them so that when we come out of enhanced distance learning, when we are able to, for the hybrid model, we will have those schedules ready to go. The other thing that I would like to say here on this graphic is that the reason, just as a reminder, the reason that we went with the 3-2-2-3 model, and we heard from the community, is that again, I've said this many times, no hybrid model is perfect. We've spent countless hours over the summer collaborating with people from all over the state. And these hybrid models, while they aren't perfect, where we are confident with this one is that we have consecutive days to work with our students, 3 days in a row or 2 days in a row, to not only assess learning, deliver new content and new skills, allow time to practice with the teacher, and time to prepare the learners for their remote learning days when they are more learning independently. So we want those consecutive days to get all of that done. Jacqueline?
Thank you. So we know that this is an area that's really important to our families, our students, and our staff in regards to our students who receive intervention services as well as gifted services. In a hybrid model, we know that we're going to continue to have to be flexible and individualized. So these are just some general, comments and slides that you're going to see tonight, but we will work with students and families on a case-by-case and individualized basis as we move into, let's say, this particular hybrid model. So for this model, we will have our intervention specialists and related service providers really work carefully together to create predictable and consistent schedules so that we make sure specially designed instruction is met based on a student's IEP. We will also have some individual IEP team meetings for considerations for 5 days a week. These meetings will really be focused on students who participate in an alternate curriculum, most likely in a self-contained classroom for the majority of their day, and also typically will be students who take our alternative assessment. So in terms of gifted services, we will continue to provide gifted services in the hybrid model, again, with a consistent, predictable schedule in conjunction with working with our billing principals and our gifted intervention specialists and what that schedule looks like.
Thank you, Dr. Engel. And then again, everyone, we want you to know that the hybrid grouping requests will still go out and be available starting tomorrow, Friday, July 31st. Through Wednesday, August 5th. And what we mean here is we are still going to gather this information because, as I stated a moment ago, we need to schedule all students beginning August 6th through the 18th. And we want to have our schedules ready for the time we are able to get into a hybrid model. And the grouping request is only for families if, due to a extenuating circumstance with a work schedule or childcare, if you need your children to be considered for, if group 1 isn't working for you and you need group 2, we will have a form for you to let us know. We are going to accommodate as many as we can, but we have to be very mindful of keeping things as balanced as we can throughout these uncertain times. All right, enhanced distance learning, and we're leaning into the term enhanced. This is where we have recommended to the Board of Education that we need to begin our school year. And again, we will implement enhanced distance learning at least through that first checkpoint of September 18th. During enhanced distance learning, there is a free breakfast and lunch meal pickup program, and the details are on our website. We just wanted to highlight that one real quick because that is, we know that that's important to families in the community. All right, we're really leaning into the enhanced distance learning. So as we've been saying for some time here, what we all experienced back in the spring is not what you would be expecting in enhanced distance learning as we open up our school year. So let me highlight just a few things about enhanced distance learning. In the elementary world, what this means is there will be a predictable, regular schedule for all K through 5 learners. Generally speaking, we're going to begin the day with a morning meeting. We will expect it. We will have a consistent start time. And then from the morning meeting, we might have a whole group learning, and then we are going to do our best. We want to break into small groups and individual time throughout the morning. Small group instruction and individual. Students will also have the ability to work on assignments asynchronously on their own. So it will be some back and forth, because we want to be mindful of the amount of time students are on screen and engaging in Zoom. In the midday, we're going to have obviously lunch and recess. We need that break. We need to move. We'll still have some opportunities for intervention and enrichment. In the PM session, one of the pieces that's missing from this particular slide that we have recently added, we are going to make sure that we have another connection. The teacher has another connection with students, kind of like the morning meeting, but like an afternoon check-in is what we're proposing. And then students will have regular time, predictable time with their related arts teachers. Also, we're going to make sure that our teachers are connecting with students in those small groups based on the information that they learned in the morning. Making sure that they schedule small groups in the afternoon with teachers and having them available to do check-ins with students and families. Kindergarten students will be served in their AM and PM sessions every day in enhanced distance learning. That is a schedule that we are still putting together for our kindergarten learners. So you can expect a much more predictable, robust day in the elementary. Now in the secondary, in 6 through 12, we are still working through the details of what the day will look like, but I can tell you that we anticipate having blocks of time in the morning. We'll have classes in the morning. We'll have a lunch break and a movement break. We also are going to have some time between these classes, and then we'll have classes in the afternoon. Now, what I can tell you is we will not be running like say the 8 or 9 period day in one day. We are proposing to shrink that down for each day and continue to, so that students are not, going from Zoom to Zoom to Zoom 8 different times throughout a day. But more details will be forthcoming on the distance learning there. But again, with enhanced distance learning, it is a predictable schedule. Students are expected to attend these courses, but we will also build in flexibility for any extenuating circumstances at home. Dr. Engel, again on student service.
Sure. So just like what Dr. Hatton just mentioned, again, we know that it's even going to be more important in an enhanced distant learning environment that schedules are consistent, predictable, to make sure that students are receiving their specially designed instruction. I also want to mention, and this is really for all models, that we also are recognizing that we have students with 504 plans. And so those accommodations, we again will make sure are provided, whether we're in hybrid, enhanced distance learning, and then when we talk about the online academy here in a couple minutes. But again, looking at intervention services and gifted services, predictable, consistent schedules to make sure that kiddos know when they're getting these services.
Thank you. And again, as I stated, attendance is expected. For enhanced distance learning, it'll be taken synchronously during class time, during the live Zoom session, and in conjunction with evidence of participation. So there's more to come on that. So attendance is expected, again, in enhanced distance learning. And then on the next slide, as we've talked about previously, there were a lot of questions around feedback and grading. Feedback for learning and timely feedback is what the goal of enhanced distance learning is, but we will be following district policy. Report cards, grades, GPAs, course credits will all count in our school-based instruction models. The online academy will still launch at the beginning of the school year. This is our 100% digital instruction program that will be led by UA teachers. We will be using Acellus as our content platform to supplement our curriculum. It is the resource that we will be using, and we are working to align, making sure that the alignment of our curriculum is there. If you're interested in looking at the courses that they have, they are listed on our website with the link that you see on the screen. Students are in the online academy are expected to engage on school days. However, one of the differences in the online academy is that it is self-paced learning. Students can work at their pace with the support and of district teachers. Progress reports, grades, GPA, course credit will all count as it does in our school-based models. Again, these are our students, and we want to make sure that they stay connected with each other and with their schools. Much of this is still in design, but we know that what the research says this is a different type of instructional delivery model and learning model. But we also know what the research says is that it's highly important that students have connections and meaningful connections with teachers. So we are going to build that into the design of the online academy.
So we will be providing special education and gifted services to our students who enroll in the online academy once we know who those students are. We will want to take a look at those IEPs as a team to see if we at all need to amend the IEP to reflect an online learning environment. And I would say the same is true for a 504 plan as well. We want to make sure that 504 plan, we want to make sure those accommodations make sense for an online learning environment. And again, we will work specifically with the families that sign up for gifted services to be able to provide those.
I forgot to mention that nutritional services will be available as well for students in our online academy. So this is an important slide for you to pay attention to. You may opt into the online academy beginning tomorrow through August 5th. And what we're asking families to do is to commit for a semester or the entire year. The reason we're making that request is because that really helps us with master scheduling, balancing classes, both in both the online academy and the school-based options, and with staffing. However, if you start in the online academy, we will also have opportunities if it's not working out, or if the model shifts and the hybrid model begins, and you wish to shift into the hybrid model, we will have those opportunities available through a form request. There's going to be a special online academy information session held tomorrow, July 31st from 1 to 2:30, and it will be facilitated by Chief Academic Officer Keith Pomeroy.
I want to make sure that we emphasize tonight how important we believe all of the related arts programs are to the whole child education that we provide. So whether it's music, band, orchestra, choir, physical education, we want to make sure that those continue to be options for our students to be in part of. And there's special circumstances in which we're still waiting on some health protocols from our local officials, but we will be offering related arts throughout the school year. We just need to land a little more closely what that looks like in a safe environment for our students. So please know that there'll be additional information coming out related to that. And we want to make sure too that as we think through related arts, that we also are making sure that students stay active in our extracurriculars and our students' clubs. We are going to make sure that those are offered through a virtual environment initially, and then when possible, when we can safely return to face-to-face activities, we'll do so. But for now, we want to make sure that our extracurriculars and student clubs can continue. And any student in any program, whether it's the enhanced distance learning or our digital academy, can participate in those activities. Athletic activities, there's been a lot going on this week related to this when it comes to direction from our public health officials. And so Paul's going to talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, thanks a lot, Kathy. Again, just to reiterate what Kathy said, all these areas are so important to our kids, and we certainly understand that. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about extracurriculars, athletics, and marching band included, as that's an important fall activity that many of our kids are involved with. And so this has been a quickly evolving situation throughout the day. So we're still going through the guidance we are receiving from Ohio High School Athletic Association, the OCC, the Ohio Department of Health, and Franklin County Public Health. And so we're going to have some updates out for our families tomorrow, and we will let you know what we know tomorrow. And so we will get that out to you, and we'll be able to answer questions about that, obviously, as we send that out. But just know, like everything else, things are quickly changing. So as we put out the guidance, please know that it could change, and as it changes, we'll keep you all posted. Next slide, please. So again, just to highlight again that we're sharing what we know today. Next slide. So tomorrow morning, the Board of Education has a meeting at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. The plan that we're talking to you tonight is a recommendation, and the board has not acted on it yet. And so it does not go into place until the Board of Education takes action. Next. Friday, July 31st, again tomorrow, as Andy already mentioned, Keith Pomeroy, our Chief Academic Officer, will be hosting a session specifically about the UA Online Academy. So we obviously know there are questions about that, and so we wanted to offer a meeting just about that. The week of August 10th, our principals are going to be offering meetings, and that's when we're going to have the information available about what your child's day is going to look like according to a schedule, minute by minute, when they're going to have classes on Zoom. And again, as Andy has already stated, when we're in enhanced distance learning, they are going to be following a schedule, and they're going to be in live Zoom classes, and we'll be taking attendance and all of those things. And so we'll be able to share, our building principals will be able to share more about those schedules throughout the day, the week of August 10th. And so now what we want to do is transition to your questions. And so again, we will do this as has become our custom. I will read the question and assign it to a specific member of our team. And Jacqueline is the winner tonight with the first question. So here we go, Jacqueline. If part of the online academy, can we also still have access to Haggerty, Epic, Lexia, Foundation, Bridges, and Brain Pop, etc.?
Great question. So like Andy said, these are kids that enroll in our kids that enroll in the online academy are our students. They're our Upper Arlington students. And so depending on grade level and what students have access to in ClassLink, they will continue to have those particular apps and access to.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. The next question for me around athletics, can you consider allowing fall sports teams to train practice in a safe way this season? And again, we are going through all the guidance. The state's looking at this in a contact sport and a non-contact sport lens, and so we're looking at it through those lenses. So some of the guidance we're receiving is not treating all sports the same. But again, as we sift through all of that, we'll have an update for you tomorrow on that. Kathy, the next question is for you about supplies. Are we using school supplies this year?
So I want to share with you that we are not doing the PTO school supply sales as we've done in the past. Starting tomorrow, principals are providing to Andy and I just a list of what we consider the essential supplies that students need to have at both home and at school. And then we are also considering providing kind of a distribution of materials that we purchase for your students. So in the elementary, for example, workbooks and supplies that we know that they need, whether they're learning at home or learning at school. So there will be more information coming out from your building principals in those principal meetings starting August 10th.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Another question for you, this time about masks. What's going to be the mask protocol for our mixed 2-3 grade classes?
Thank you. So at Wycliffe, we have the multi-age classrooms. So the 2-3 multi-age classes will follow the protocol for K2, which is that they have to wear a mask whenever they're transitioning or coming in and out of the building. And then the desk shields will be available for the students to use in both 2nd and 3rd grade at Wycliffe.
Okay, thanks a lot. Chris, you're up next with a question about transportation. If in hybrid this year, will there be busing?
Yes, we are planning on having busing in hybrid with all the safety protocols in place, which would be our students wearing masks, loading from the back to the front, and unloading from the front to the back, with assigned seating as well. So we're aware of what kids are near each other while on the bus, and with windows open as well, as weather permits.
Thanks, Chris. The next question is for me. It's multi-part. Why did the Franklin County Health Department change its recommendations? The first part, what evidence do they have to make these changes? The second part, and are we obligated to follow these recommendations, which is part 3. And so the evidence that they gave us for making the change First of all, they informed us the average number of daily cases of COVID-19 has tripled between mid-June and mid-July. They told us approximately 17% of all cases have been in persons ages 0 to 19. They mentioned that there are clusters of cases associated with sports and other return to play activities. They also told us that 75% of all cases in the county are in non-congregate settings. A congregate setting, again, would be a long-term care facility. And they mentioned that the positivity rate of testing has varied between 8 and 13%, and the CDC wants to see that at, I believe, less than 5%. So those are the data points that they specifically mentioned as they made the change in recommendation. They also let us know, I think many people know this, that they're in consultation throughout the week, obviously with the local hospitals and the experts from the local hospitals. We've also been in contact with Nationwide Children's Hospital as well, just to confirm these things. And then the final part of the question is, are we obligated to follow these recommendations? And no, we're not. They are guidance at this point. They could issue an order, but they have not done that. They have issued guidance. But I will also tell you this, and I know not everyone likes this answer, but I'm going to be truthful. We are educational experts. We know education. We are not public health experts. We are not in infectious disease experts. And so we are going to listen to public health experts. We are going to listen to the folks in the hospitals. We're going to listen to the folks who do this work on a daily basis, because the safety of our kids and the safety of our staff is our top concern, especially during a pandemic. So next question, Andy, goes to you. Around teaching and learning, what happens if a student misses a Zoom class due to a lack of internet, having to travel to childcare, etc., when it is synchronous learning time? Will teachers record Zooms as they did in the spring and allow the child to check in for attendance when they are able?
Sure, this is bound to happen in these uncertain times. So when this does happen, we do anticipate recording anything that the teacher could have available for the students, whatever they miss, and then access that learning asynchronously or on a time that fits for them. I would say that if it becomes more, and that would be obviously the exception, and we know, and our teachers totally understand that this is going to happen throughout the year. I will say, if it becomes a challenge to, these are the things that we all as parents have to weigh out. If it becomes a challenge to regularly meet those regularly scheduled classes, I would encourage you to consider the online academy.
Thanks a lot. Another question about public health for me. Why can private schools return 5 days a week, but the public schools must go to distance learning? And again, the public health guidance that has come out applies to all schools in Franklin County, whether public or private. Andy, the next question for you along the lines of the online academy. Will the online academy be considered differently by colleges?
My own daughter just got her schedule from her university. She's going to be a freshman this upcoming year. And she just found out that one of her courses is going to be taught remotely, even though she's going to be on campus. The entire course is now remote for the year. So I would certainly hope not, knowing that, universities are going through the same things we all are in K-12 public education. So I would lean towards they will not view these the online academy courses as less or lesser. These are Upper Arlington courses.
Great, thanks a lot, Andy. Next question also for you, Andy, specific to Wycliffe. Will the online academy teacher for our school be a Wycliffe teacher, taking into account that our school is not a traditional program?
So we don't yet know we know that the staff will be Upper Arlington teachers. We just don't know who those teachers are going to be yet at this time. If we have a Wycliffe teacher or a Barrington informal teacher that is part of the online academy, they might be able to weave some of those principles into the approach. However, I do want to be very upfront about this. The online academy will not be based in the progressive or informal philosophies.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Another question about health and safety. Are you aware health experts have found that kids 10 and older can transmit COVID as easily as adults. And yes, we are aware of that study. Given this, the plexiglass shields really should be used for older children as well, especially at times when masks are not on, such as lunch. Will you give this consideration? And so again, we are using the plexiglass shields in the younger classrooms so that when the students are seated, the very youngest of our children, they can take off their masks, because we are obviously understand how difficult that can be for our youngest learners. And so currently our guidance does not call for plexiglass shields in this setting, but if that guidance were to change, of course, we will look at that. The next question for me, what will the first day of school be? August 19th will be the first day of school. Andy, a question about distance learning. Can you expand upon how high school scheduling looks and how you address classes like math where daily instruction is essential?
So beginning August 6th, when we have the information and we know who is going into the school-based option and who's going into the online academy option, in this case, high school scheduling, I just realized that this says for distance learning. So high school scheduling, the high school schedule in the school-based option will be that child's schedule, and they will have Upper Arlington High School teachers, and they will be Zooming in. I'm also going to interpret this as the online academy. So again, we are going to schedule those students. We're going to take a look at their Upper Arlington High School schedule, and we are going to match the courses in the online academy. Courses that are not offered in the online academy, we are still going to sort through that so that we can make sure that we can offer as much as we can. And then in terms of how do you address classes like math where daily instruction is essential, so much more, again, tune in tomorrow with Chief Academic Officer Keith Pomeroy, but I can tell you that Acellus is an adaptive responsive technology. So a mini lesson is taught, a quick assessment is given, and then the adaptive technology gives that learner exactly what they need in terms of practice. And when misconceptions, or if you will, wrong answers are given, misconceptions are addressed in real time by the adaptive technology. So math, we agree, is very important. They're going to get that feedback. And further, it is our hope to staff the online academy with math teachers that can be at the ready in case the online the interface isn't working for that student.
Andy, a question about scheduling. How on earth is it nearly August 1st and we still don't know who the teachers will be?
That's a great question. And we want to get that information to everyone as soon as we possibly can. One of the components was, obviously things have been changing all throughout the summer. In fact, we got new information this week that just told us we are going to be recommending that we start with enhanced distance learning. So that is why we wanted to give parents as much information as we could about what we knew at the time, plus the online academy details. And so again, you'll have that opportunity between tomorrow and August 5th. And then as rapidly as our schools can schedule students, then we will let you know what those schedules are and who those teachers are.
Thank you very much. Chris, the next question is for you. When a child goes out on presumed COVID or even cold-like symptoms, will the classroom be decontaminated, even if this happens midday during class time?
I think that's a great question. I think we know that safety is our number one priority for all students, and so we will respond to every situation specifically. And if it requires moving students to make sure we can get in there to sanitize spaces, we will do that.
Okay, thanks a lot. Andy, a question for you about distance learning. How is small group work going to work if there's only one teacher? Is an aide leading the small groups as well?
So this is still in design right now. We know that our youngest learners need that support, and I'm talking K1 and 2. So we are still working to determine who will be where very soon. But we know that we need with all the personnel we have, we want to make sure that we can handle these small groups. That's the goal.
Okay, the next question for me. I thought the school board was voting tomorrow. Why are we moving forward with this plan? First of all, we're not moving forward with the plan. We can't move forward with the plan until the Board of Education approves a plan. If you remember in the previous recommendation, we were going to be sending out forms to parents on Wednesday, asking them to begin as early as Wednesday, yesterday, in looking at the different options. And that was all put on hold. None of those things, again, can happen until the Board of Education takes action. And they're scheduled to take up this item tomorrow morning at 8:30. Then I've got two questions that are similar. How did you come up with September 19? We don't know what the environment will be like in 3 weeks, let alone on September 19th. The governor announced today the number of level 3 counties is decreasing. Why must we decide now? What happens if within the next 3 weeks we're at level 2? So a couple of things there, and those are certainly really great questions and really fair questions. So just as a reminder, we are no longer aligning our decisions solely to the color system. And so we're going to look at more data points than just that. So I would start there. And as far as the reason that we're recommending so September 18th, we did want to give our families a level of certainty for the first 4 full weeks of school. And it is our great hope. All of us want the same thing. We all want our kids back in school. And so it is our hope that the data improves and we can get our kids back in school in the middle of September. Next question, Jacqueline, for you. When will 504 IEP meetings to begin the school year and set teacher expectations take place?
So I think this is asking if an IEP or 504 meeting needs to take place, maybe to possibly amend those accommodations or possible goals potentially. We will schedule those as quickly as we can towards the beginning of the year. In terms of set teacher expectations, once we get the class lists made and caseloads assigned to an intervention specialist, the teachers will have the IEPs and have the 504 plans, and we'll make sure that they are following all of those accommodations.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Andy, a question about the online academy. How much support are UA staff going to provide in the online academy, and what will it look like?
So we want to make sure, one of the things that we've put out there and that was on the slide is that teachers will be monitoring progress through the modules. And I just want to clarify, and Keith will be clarifying this tomorrow, this is not a passive monitoring. This is a very proactive monitoring of student progress. We expect to have weekly, I want to say at this time, we anticipate weekly connections with students. And like I said earlier, best practice and research says students in an online academy need to have those connections with adults, with teachers. The other thing that I keep leaning into, it is our goal to design this so that especially with our K-1-2 learners, we are able to deliver some small group interactions on a daily basis. It might not be the same kids every day, to make sure that we are delivering with reading, literacy, and numeracy. In the middle and high school levels, again, we anticipate staffing this with content area specialists who are at the ready to help students when they're struggling, and be there for them throughout. And the other idea might be is if we have somebody that maybe a course is so unique and outside anyone's area of expertise, we want to connect them to an Upper Arlington high school or middle school teacher during office hours to help that learner get unstuck with the skill or the concept as they work through the modules. So much to be developed, but we want to make sure that, again, these are our students and we're going to do everything we can to have those connections in the academy.
Thanks a lot, Andy. The next question for me, would the room still be notified that someone has tested positive, similar to other notification we get for illnesses in a room? That would be yes. Andy, question about the transition to the online academy. Can students switch from enhanced distance learning at the beginning of the year to the online academy if school is reinstated after September 18th? If so, how continuous would the transition be? That is, how synchronized will the content be between the classroom and the online academy? And will the students get credit for enhanced distance learning that was completed and not have to repeat this learning in the online academy?
This is great. There's a lot here. So let me take these one at a time. Can students switch from the enhanced distance learning at the beginning of the year to the online academy if school is reinstated? So tomorrow, so the people that are asking this question, please, tomorrow when the form goes out for the online academy, we have a section of that form that is for you. If you intend to start in enhanced distance learning, but you might want to come into the academy when we go hybrid, there is a section of that survey for you starting tomorrow. And we ask some questions, and I would put that out there to anyone. Please fill that out. And you're not committing to the online academy by doing that. We just want to have a sense of numbers, grade levels, because again, that will impact our staffing and the balance of the in-person opportunities. The next question there is, what would the transition be like? The continuity, I think, is what we're getting at here with the content. So in both the academy, the online academy, and in our school-based options, we are going to be mindful of our curriculum and our prioritized standards in Upper Arlington schools. Again, the online academy resource of Acellus is just that. It's a resource. We are doing a rapid side-by-side comparison of our content and going through those modules as quickly as we can. But I will say, we cannot promise perfect continuity when a student leaves the academy and comes into a school-based option. There's might be some incongruence because the online academy is a self-paced opportunity. Now, if you start an enhanced distance learning and you come into the academy, what we have learned recently is that we do have the ability to make sure that the courses match where the learner is. Some options like Acellus, you can't do that, but with Acellus, you can do that. So I believe we can line that up, and then will students get credit for enhanced distance learning that was completed? And yes, we don't want students to repeat things that they've already done. That would not make sense. Again, we are designing this for this type of fluidity.
Okay. Andy, a question, and this has been a common question. Can a student choose both the hybrid and online academy or just one? And that's back to that, can I dip into hybrid for orchestra, those sorts of things?
Sure. So I'm going to answer this in two ways. We do need you to commit to one or the other, but if you do commit to the online academy, and as Paul just said, there are opportunities that are not offered in the online academy, such as orchestra, and you want to take that through the hybrid model, the school-based model, the answer is yes.
Okay. Kathy, how will we distribute books?
So we will have more information for each building in those building meetings, but our goal is to plan for pickup days before school starts. And we also are going to ask that if you have library books and things at home that are from the school district, we will also recollect those items when we do your distribution of school supplies and school textbook before school starts.
Okay. The next question, Andy, I'm going to have you take this. I know we dealt with this in the spring. If athletics, marching band are suspended, will students receive their athletic waiver for high school from their participation in summer conditioning activities?
You know, I want to be careful on how I answer this one right now, because that answer changed back in the spring. And so I just want to make sure that if that is something where, let's just say athletics and marching band are suspended, so let's play this out, then we will get that answer at that time. Because if the participation in the summer conditioning has already taken place, then that's already taken place. I just want to make sure we get the right answer if those things are suspended.
Okay, thanks a lot. The next for me, how much notice will we have about extension of enhanced distance learning beyond September 18th? We will keep you posted as we learn more from the health officials. Obviously, we will keep our community and our staff posted every step of the way. So at whatever point we are able to transition to hybrid, I look for us to have 7 to 10 days notice. It's going to take us time to get up and running for that, and so there'll be plenty of notice when we're able to transition to hybrid, and we'll keep everyone posted on that. Kathy, about recess for elementary school kids, how will 6 feet of physical distancing be enforced during recess? Also, will elementary students be expected to stay with their classroom on certain parts of the playground, or will they be able to play with children across grade levels and classes?
So I'm going to be really transparent about this. Recess is not going to feel like we all have known it to be. We will have to have assigned locations, and students will have to maintain the 6 feet of social distancing, and they will play in spaces based on cohort groups. So it is going to feel and look differently. So that is something you can help us to start talking to your kids about when we move closer to having the hybrid model.
Okay. A public health question for me, why doesn't the 4 weeks of tracking a decrease start now? Why is it from the first day of school? So again, it isn't from the first day of school. It does start now, is the information we have received from public health. But they've said they're also looking at the rate of cases. So just the decrease, they've said, is not enough. They're also looking at the rate of cases as well. So that's one of the factors, but not the only factor. Andy, is there any teacher or student meeting for the online academy?
I'm going to interpret this in two ways. So the first one is tomorrow, Friday, July 31st with Dr. Keith Pomeroy. Please see the link on our website. I believe it starts at 1 o'clock. And then I anticipate that we're going to have a kickoff and welcome sessions as we get into the beginning of the school year and orientation, for parents and for kids.
Okay, thank you. Andy, for you, when will the kindergarten parents know more about the plans for the days?
Right, we are going to have specifics around not only the kindergarten schedules, the K through 5, the 6 through 12 schedules at the building principal meetings, which will be offered in 2 weeks.
Okay, Kathy, will there be school pictures?
So we know how important it is to have school pictures and yearbooks and all of those things documented in photographs. But at the start of the year, until we know we can move back into hybrid and safely do school pictures, we are postponing those plans until we have the ability to bring kids and photographers safely back to school.
Thanks. Andy, a question for you. I'd like to understand the intent to require the capstone when the entire point is external research, most often outside of COVID, tied to in-person and group interactions. Isn't there an appropriate alternative?
I know the high school is working hard to design this. And so more information will be available at the high school building meeting in a couple weeks. We have to work under the constraints that we have. This is our reality. So, I think I would argue that we can still do external research, and that I would, even though we can't do in person, I was just on a call the other day with Ohio State researchers that are going to be conducting research remotely. And we had our meeting and we met each other. And so I think that we're going to do everything we can to accommodate this reality.
Okay, thanks a lot. Kathy, for you, are there specific masks recommended?
So we are not recommending a specific brand or style of mask. There's two considerations I want you to make sure you remember. The first is the mask must cover the nose, mouth, and chin. And we're encouraging if people find it comfortable to wear a clear mask, so that students who need to see our lips through speech and understanding us, whether it's our EL students or our deaf and hearing impaired students, we want to make sure that we are supportive of that population, that we can communicate with one another. And the other question that's really tied to that is, what about students and their medical exemptions? So we will look at those on a case-by-case basis, and not just whether or not to grant the exception, but also then following that student through the day and determining what other safeguards need to be put in place to make sure that the students and the staff around the student are safe as well.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, Jacqueline, a question about well-being. Will school counselors remain available throughout the year for students, even if enhanced distance learning becomes the norm? And are there any plans to hire additional social workers, aides to meet the demand?
Yeah, so our counselors are just such a huge resource for a lot of our students. And so, yes, they will continue to remain that resource so that students can reach out to them. They will work with students, and depending on what students need, we will definitely provide the resources that we have available.
Okay. Jacqueline, another question for you. Will online program special needs participants get their assigned school designated IS and therapies as they did at their home school, or would you have to be in enhanced learning to be guaranteed homeschool familiar resources?
So as Andy has talked about, the teachers that will have really working in the online academy may not be students' home teachers. And so it will really just depend on who ends up staffing the online model.
Okay, thank you. Another question, Jacqueline, for you. Who should we reach out to regarding an existing IEP for an incoming sophomore? Specifically, what recommendations are being made for the individual student? And will each student have an assigned intervention specialist?
Yes, each student will have an assigned intervention specialist like they normally would. And if you have specific questions, I would recommend either reaching out to myself, Dr. Kevin Gorman, or your building principal to just talk through the different options and your specific student's needs.
Okay. Great, thanks. Andy, if a student shows symptoms during school time and has to be in isolation at home, will distance learning be available for that student?
So we're still working on this because we know, and we have some time since we're opening in full distance learning and enhanced distance learning, but this would be about the hybrid model, right? So the student is now in isolation at home. So we're going to monitor this and design a way to, we want the least amount of disruption to the student. So we're going to have to figure out ways to address their needs while they're at home. And depending on how long that isolation might be or that quarantine might be, we're going to have to get creative with ways to not disrupt their learning. So that is still in development.
Okay, great. So a tech help question, Andy. Will there be a live helpline that kids can call when they're having technical issues?
Yeah, so we're still going to build out for parents and for students some initial self-help steps in a central location. So, that are very frequent in terms of frequently asked questions around tech help. When the self-help doesn't work, then we're going to have the next layer that students can reach out to the help desk. Their teachers usually are a good place to start. If it is a technical issue, if it's around a curricular issue or the lesson, start with your teacher. But if it's tech help, we will still have the tech help desk available.
Okay. Andy, will IB classes be offered in the UA Online Academy?
So just to be clear, IB courses are not in Acellus, but the IB classes that we offer in Upper Arlington schools will be offered in the UA Online Academy. We are working very hard to figure out how we are going to make that happen. But at this time, we are not saying that we are limiting those courses for Online Academy students.
Okay, great. Kathy, about lunch, what will physical distancing be like for lunchtime?
So students will eat lunch with their cohort in their classroom. So in the elementary setting, and even into the middle school, we will deliver lunches. We are asking all parents to pre-order lunches, or you can certainly choose to pack, but those will be held in the classrooms. And in terms of social distancing, we will comply with all of the 6 feet physical distancing requirements, even during lunch.
Okay, thanks. Chris, will you be getting schools and classrooms ready while we're on remote only learning in anticipation for in-classroom learning, limiting delays? I think you're muted, buddy.
Sorry about that. The answer to that is yes. We're already starting to work with our custodial teams about classroom layouts in the hybrid model, and we'll be ready once that decision is made.
Okay. Will the first day of school be the 19th for everyone? And the answer to that, yes. Next question, Andy, will there be any interaction between the same grade students in the online academy?
Will there be any interaction between the same grade students? Yes. So our hope is to build community. We want to build strong relationships, not only with the teachers and the students, but students in like grades. We want to introduce them to each other regardless of their home building. And the same thing at the secondary courses, especially at the high school. We want to introduce those students to each other that are taking the same courses to build that community.
Okay, thanks. Andy, will the online academy offer honors classes as well as students in Concilium at Jones or any other accelerated classes? Are those going to be available?
So we still have some things to iron out. Keith Pomeroy will have more on that tomorrow. However, we are working to have those honors designations because that's what we have in our school-based options. And so in the void of an online academy, maybe the course is there, but if they don't offer the honors designation, our teaching and learning team and curriculum team are working to, along with our high school and middle schools, to design how that will be an honors course.
Okay. Kathy, about lunch at the high school, will I be able to send a note so my high school student can come home for lunch on their in-school days, or will I need to come to the high school once or twice each day to sign out my children for lunch?
Our current policy is still in place. A parent would need to come to the school to sign their student out.
Okay. Kathy, another lunch question. Why can't the middle and elementary schools use the cafeteria and commons area for lunch when half the number of students are there?
We feel it's really important that initially, as we start up, that we are closely supervising students and maintaining that relationship with their cohort in a reduced setting so that we can make sure proper cleaning protocols are in place. And for our students with food allergies, we really feel that having the teacher there and with a small group of students actually enhances our ability to support our students with allergies.
I'd also add just the less movement during the day, the better, according to public health officials. So we just want to keep the kids from moving from place to place. We want to limit that as much as possible. So Andy, what does it mean that UA staff will work with individual family if a course is not offered in the online academy?
So yeah, and this question goes on to say, does it mean that it'll be offered in some fashion? That is our hope. Right now, one of the things that we have said, I'm just going to say we've gotten a question a lot, like, why can't you just live stream all classes, in the hybrid, out to the community for kids to come in? There's a lot of reasons behind why that would be prohibitive in many ways. But what we're trying to do right now, we're working very hard behind the scenes for certain. This person's question is getting at courses that are not offered. We are trying to figure out a way to have students synchronously get into those classes that might be offered at the high school that are not offered in our academy. I don't want to overpromise that right now, but that is what we're going after in terms of designing that to make it happen.
Okay. Andy, will there be any planning in the schedule for one-on-one interaction between students and their teacher?
If this is a distance learning question, yes. So especially with elementary, we have designed actually K through 12, we have designed ample time when those schedules are firmed up and final in the building meetings in 2 weeks, you will see considerable time is available for small group and one-on-one sessions with teachers and students.
Okay. Kathy, how will clubs work?
So we are definitely starting the year with clubs and in a Zoom or virtual environment, but we are going to try and get those off the ground right away so that students have that ability to connect to one another.
Okay. Andy, when we transition to the hybrid model, will teacher assignments be the same as in enhanced distance learning?
Will the teacher assignments be the same for secondary?
We're talking about the schedule. Yeah.
Yes. So the schedule will be the same. So if we start in enhanced distance learning and then we shift to the hybrid, yes.
Okay. Andy, has there been discussion of keeping elementary students with their teachers from last year to assist with community building and baseline knowledge of learner strengths, et cetera?
We did consider that early on. I don't believe that that's part of that's the direction that we're going at this time.
Okay, thank you. Andy, for kindergarten families new to UA schools, this is Kathy, sorry. Kathy, for kindergarten families new to UA schools, will families receive school-issued technology?
Absolutely. So we are going to do a distribution day or a distribution schedule, which we'll be sending information out to you about that, to distribute iPads to all kindergartners, first graders, and fourth graders are part of our transition right now, and any new students to the district.
Okay.
I would also, if I can add to that, Paul, I would encourage families to make sure you know where your school device is and that it's working. And if it needs any repairs, please reach out right now to make sure we're ready for the start of school.
Okay, thanks. Kathy, another question for you in regards to classes such as art, tech ed, life skills, science classes, et cetera, that require hands-on materials. Are there considerations being made to make materials available that would need to be used in class?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we land the schedule, we also are working with all of that behind the scenes to make sure kids still continue to have opportunities when we can in a distance learning setting.
Okay. Kathy, any consideration to having students wear face shields and masks?
So we have purchased face shields that we can distribute as needed. Right now, what health officials are telling us that the mask and 6 feet of physical distancing are the two most important safeguards we can put in place. So if you have specific questions about that, please reach out to Chris and I, and we can talk about it more specifically.
Okay, thank you. For me, have you considered delaying the start of the school year to allow for more information gathering and questions from parents? And we are committed to starting the school year on time. Kathy, for art and PE, for the secondary student, how will they get art and PE credits in enhanced distance learning?
So we are working on all of that right now. I can give you one example for physical education. So last spring, we actually developed a way for students to document activities that they're doing on their own. And then that was enabling us to award their phys ed credit. So we will do similarly with art and the courses going into this coming school year.
Okay, thank you. Question for me, why not just commit to distance learning through December as other school districts in Franklin County are doing? September is very ambiguous. And again, my recommendation is the middle of September because I really want to do everything we can to get kids in school as long as it's safe. Again, as long as it's safe. So I want to give us every opportunity to get kids in school, and I'm hopeful that that is going to be possible. And that is why I've not taken that off the table through December. So that is why I've recommended what I've recommended. Kathy, if a student has a mask exemption, will they be required to then use a plexiglass shield to protect others?
Yeah, as I shared earlier, once we look at the exemption, we'll also track that student throughout the day to figure out what other safeguards need to be put in place, including the, kind of including the desk shields or face mask, all of those types of things.
Okay.
Paul, if I can add one clarification on technology. I know last spring when we moved to 100% at-home learning, some of our students had the choice to take a school device. So if you currently have a student that is going to be in grades 1, 2, and 3 and do not have a district device, we will be issuing those along with the other ones that I spoke to earlier.
Okay, thanks a lot. Andy, could you please elaborate on the prior statement regarding secondary class schedules? They will not log into 8 periods of Zoom classes. Did I misunderstand? How will classes with labs like chemistry work? When will the arts classes be determined?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So, no, you did not misunderstand me. We do not, based on what we learned from last spring and through our research, we don't think it's good for teachers and we don't think it's good for kids to have, in this case, 8 different Zooms in one day. What we have learned is that a regular school day is exhausting, and there's a different kind of tired that hits the brain being on Zoom throughout the day. So what you can anticipate in a secondary schedule is what we're looking to design are blocks of time, and we anticipate about 4 classes per day. Okay, we still have much that we need to work out with our teachers in terms of that. But this would give ample time, not only for direct instruction, which we heard loud and clear from the community and what we learned from last spring. We want to have that direct instruction, and we want to have time for teachers to do small groups, and we want to have time for the students to start their work while the teacher is there with them. So to do that effectively, we need a little bit longer period of time for that class. We will have that ready for you in 2 weeks when we have those building level meetings. To continue with this one, labs, those are going to be a challenge in distance. So we are, continuing to figure that out. And then I believe Kathy has addressed the arts classes.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Will my thing just dropped here. So
I think I got it.
do you have it?
Yep.
Go
Will
ahead,
there be
Andy.
support for seniors who are applying to colleges this fall? Yes. Whether you're in the online academy or whether you're in the school-based option, your school counselor is still your school counselor. So at the high school level, your school counselor is still your school counselor, and we will be there to help you through as we have in the past, applying for colleges this fall.
Okay. Andy, what expectations are there for EDL in terms of time spent per class for middle school and high school levels? In the spring, the expectation was no more than 30 minutes per class per day. Should I expect that my student is in school from 8 to 3, then doing homework at night?
So like I said, we've got more details coming out soon in those building level meetings in 2 weeks with what the length of the class period is going to be, what is going on in that class period. One of the things that we would hope, again, what we talked about is having enough ample time in enhanced distance learning with the teacher there and available on Zoom. I might log out of the class, get some work done, but I know that the teacher is still there. I believe this is addressing the amount of homework per night. By lengthening some of these periods, there should be somewhat of a reduction in the amount of needed time for homework. I'm not saying there won't be homework, there will still be some, but it is our hope that we get that knocked out during the day while the teacher is there. Again, to enhance, another thing that we heard in enhanced distance learning is that connection between the teacher and the student.
Thank you. Jacqueline, does Online Academy take into account gifted students, pushing them to full potential, even past curriculum scheduled content?
Correct. And I think what Andy talked a little bit about too is that it is self-paced and we can really customize the courses that students take to address that.
Okay, great. Andy, will office hours at the high school be available for students?
Yes, the high school is working still through those details, but office hours will be available.
Okay. What are the plans for incoming freshmen when entering back into the physical classroom? They've not received any of the traditional transitional programming from the spring or the first day of school, all freshman day of school. So when we're able to go back to a hybrid model at that point, if you look at the hybrid schedule that we had by the days in the recommendation, we had transition days built into the first few days of school. And that was assuming we were starting in the hybrid model. And we're no longer doing that, obviously. So when we're able to transition to the hybrid model, we would anticipate needing some transitional day to complete some of those activities that we would normally do at the beginning of the school year at that time. And that would be a part of the transition planning for that switch to hybrid when we're able to do that. Andy, will elementary students be moving around the building for specials when in hybrid learning?
Yeah, I'm going to maybe ask Kathy to help me with this because I believe it might be a little bit of a both and. We might be delivering some of that in the classrooms to reduce those transitions, and then some might be in the physical spaces. Kathy, do you have more details on
Yeah,
that?
whenever possible, we'll try to travel the teacher instead of lots of groups of students. But there'll be kind of a combination of that depending on the individual building and those schedules.
Okay. Jacqueline, I received a letter mentioning that my child qualified for gifted classes. Will gifted classes still resume in the fall? I've not heard more on this.
Yes, they will. And parents will hear more when they receive their child's schedule.
Okay, thanks. Andy, will the teacher that leads the morning meeting for my first grader be the same teacher she sees when she hopefully can return to the physical classroom?
Yes, that is the goal. Like I said, we're going to schedule students up front, balance out the two groups as best we can, even though we're starting in enhanced distance learning, so that we are ready that when we go to hybrid, it is the same teacher for that child.
Okay. Andy, if a child does the online academy and parents are unsatisfied with their progress, will there be a district supported option to retain and repeat that grade, particularly in the elementary level?
So this is the first time I've had this question, so I want to pause right here. There is very little scientific research that supports retention, so we are going to do everything we can to make sure that that doesn't happen. So one of the things I want to say in the online academy, for both parents and for the teachers in the online academy, there is a very detailed platform that we will be able to monitor the progress of students on a daily basis and see how they're doing. And like I said, this monitoring will be proactive. So if we notice that a student is struggling, if we notice that a student is falling behind, actually also, if we notice a student is really making rapid progress through, we are going to do those checks for understanding and check in with those students in all three of those situations. I would be, quite frankly, I would be sad if we got to the point where if we just weren't satisfied with that progress, we didn't wait to the end of the year to intervene or at the end of a semester. We're going to intervene early and often and work with families on this.
Okay. Got a question about desk shields. Can we use plexiglass throughout all schools to help provide mask breaks? And can we use PTO funds to help purchase? And I just want to be really clear on this, as we've talked to public health officials, including Nationwide Children's Hospital. They were really wanting us to limit that to the younger kids. They do not believe that the plexiglass shield is a replacement for the mask. And so they're only looking at that at the younger grades because of obviously the age of those kindergartners, first and second graders. But they are not going to recommend having plexiglass in lieu of masks. It's why they won't recommend a face shield in lieu of a mask. Again, the public health officials and Nationwide Children's believe a mask is important and the mask is the most effective. Let me see. Andy, is there a possibility that some high school classes will be eliminated because the classes cannot be effectively conducted through distance learning?
You know, I think we have to be honest here and say that this is a possibility. We are going to do everything we can to offer every course we possibly can, but I really appreciate this question. And I know the high school is working hard and we have very creative teachers, but I think when we really take a hard look at this, there may be some course contraction as we enter these times.
Okay, a high school distance learning schedule question, Andy. Will you be sure to give ample time for lunch? I've been talking with my student about the need to go for a bike ride and get outside over lunch. Is that going to be possible?
Yes, and quite frankly, I hope that when we design, I hope that there's enough of a break between these classes as well to get up, to move, to stretch, to go on a bike ride. Certainly in the middle of the day, we hope to build that in.
Okay. Andy, is Power School still the most appropriate resource for us as parents to be monitoring our child's progress?
Yes, in the hybrid model and in enhanced distance learning, that would be a yes. In the online academy, like I said, there's going to be a really robust parent page where you can monitor platform. There you go. Page that you can monitor how your child is doing. But Power School, in terms of grades, yes, that is still the most appropriate resource.
Okay, great. Andy, for the online academy, if a student signs up for the online academy and progresses quickly through course content, will they be able to go up to another level, or would they finish the curriculum earlier than the end of the school year?
Yeah, this is a great question. It is highly personalized, and like I said, it is adaptive and responsive. So it's going to meet the needs of where the learner is, with greater challenge or greater depth. Now, having said that, like I said just a moment ago, proactive monitoring by our teachers. If we notice a student is progressing at a rapid pace, like maybe at twice the pace of their peers, we are going to reserve the right to get in there and to assess their learning to make sure it's meeting the expectation of Upper Arlington schools. We are not going to, it is not our intent to slow a learner down, but we have anticipated this, and Keith will have more details on this tomorrow at 1 o'clock. But yes, if they finish a course early, we anticipate, again, if a learner wants to continue to progress, we would allow that. But again, I want to say, and I want to qualify this with, especially if it's a high school course, a middle school course, we're going to engage those teacher experts to give us some assessments just to make sure that the curriculum truly is lined up, that the learning has lined up. But we don't want to slow a learner down who has moved at their pace.
Okay, great. Andy, for the online academy, will teachers be available offline to have dialogue with my student?
Yes, in the online academy, I mean, I guess I'm not sure what they mean by offline, but teachers will be available during the workday, which we anticipate, which will be 8 to 4. They will be available to meet with students via Zoom, via email, and if there's other formats within Acellus to communicate, but teachers will be available.
Okay. Why are we, Andy, why are we requested to submit our request for online academy by August 5th?
Because we have such a short window of time to get this scheduled. So I know that it is a short window of time as a parent. I truly, truly appreciate that. So again, with the online academy, I encourage you to attend Keith's session tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I encourage you to email us questions and we'll get that turned around as quickly as we can. But considering that we have an off ramp, if the academy isn't working out for you in December, or midway through, we will work with each family individually, but we do need those decisions to be made by August 5th.
Okay. Okay, next, for me, what if some students don't follow the rules of wearing masks or keeping 6 feet of physical distance? And this is a great question. And one of the things, schools are places of rules. We have many different protocols and rules, and our staff are really experts at really helping our kids to understand these and follow these. And so I have full confidence in our staff. Teachers have done this for generations. And so as far as teaching and enforcing protocols and the reasons behind all of those, and our teachers will certainly be ready to do that in this way as well. Andy, will parents be able to receive the same real-time progress of their child that a UA teacher has access to for the online academy system?
Yes, I did not articulate this very well in the last answer, but Keith will be able to show you what that looks like. We saw a screen and I saw it as what a parent interface would look like, and hopefully we have that tomorrow. If not, I can just assure you that yes, you can see your child's progress through these modules and through these courses, and it is a very robust look at where they are.
Okay. Chris, are the air handling systems pulling in fresh air, or will they be running strictly with recirculating air or a mix? And are there filter systems in place like we use in our homes that help filter out bacteria and viruses?
Yes, the air handling systems are bringing in fresh air. We have those all maxed out right now to what is being recommended by the agencies in the HVAC world, and they do have filtering systems on them as well.
Okay. Andy, for our elementary kids, when are they going to know who their teachers are?
You know, we've gotten this question quite a bit, and parents, I really feel you on this one. I want to know myself as a parent. We are going to let you know as soon as we have these courses built. And I guess I want to pause here. Paul's asked me this question to phrase it in this way. Master scheduling in normal times is an extreme challenge. Usually we have months to get this done. We have from August 6th to August 18th. And I know that our staff will step up and get this done. But we will, I don't want to promise, a certain date or a certain time. It will be before school starts, and it'll be as soon as we have it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I want to thank you for all the questions. I want to encourage you, if you have more questions about the Online Academy, to join Keith Pomeroy, our Chief Academic Officer, tomorrow for that meeting, and to continue to look for updates from us and to look for time for the building-specific meetings beginning the week of August 10th. As we close, I just want to acknowledge what an incredibly difficult time this is. I want to acknowledge the amount of anxiety that all of us are feeling, and that comes from uncertainty and from dealing with something none of us have ever dealt with, a once-in-a-century health crisis. I want you to know that as a school district, first and foremost, we care about each and every one of the students in our care. And I want you to know, as families, as we continue to walk through this global health crisis together, whatever you need from us, please know that we are here. Please just reach out to us. If you have a child is struggling at any time and you need help, please call upon us. We want to be a resource for you, and we want to help you through all of these things. I don't know when this is going to be over. I don't know what the next months are going to look like. I wish I did, but I will tell you this: we will get through this together. I believe in our families. I believe in our kids. I believe in our staff. And I want to say again how thankful I am to all of our staff at all levels and the countless hours that are continuing to be spent to prepare for whatever may come our way. We are planning for so many different scenarios, and they are constantly changing. But we are all doing it because we care deeply about each and every one of our kids. So again, I want to thank all of you for joining us. I want to thank all of you for all you are doing. I want to encourage everyone to be safe. And as always, go Bears.